Happy to go to those meetings.
All right. The last ones have been on Tuesday at 7.
Only in March,
Okay.
but typically it's the second Monday at 6:30 on Zoom.
Second Monday, 6:30.
6:30 on Zoom.
Road commissioner, statutorily, Allison Bigwood is to be road commissioner until we hire a town manager. Let's see, town health officer, Allison Bigwood.
I would call that interim health officer.
Yes, an interim health officer, correct. And the tree warden, no, town service officer, you said you would do that as well, correct?
I don't know what it does, but sure.
I don't, yeah, what do
I
you,
remember we had a discussion. I think it was the service officer.
We talking about service officer or tree warden? I'm
Service
sorry.
officer, sorry. I skipped
So
one.
that's Allison.
Yeah. Wyndham Regional Planning Commissioners, we really need to have, we need to do that because we have to hand this in. This is your job description as a commissioner.
Is this different from planning commission?
Yes.
And it would just seem logical that planning, that they should come from within the planning commission? Or has that not been the case?
we haven't had a representative of that for almost a year.
It is kind of logical, I think you're right. It should come from the planning.
I'm especially not volunteering. But it just seems logical.
I'll ask my brother.
I haven't.
Oh, yes, he's not here.
Yeah. I'll ask him.
Okay, so next, we'll deal with that next meeting.
I'll see if
You
I
should
can-
ask the planning commission to decide quickly.
Okay.
Yes.
Since Barry is here.
Yeah, there she is.
Do we have to decide right now? Can we-
No.
Yeah, we can wait next week. You can call your group
I mean, I'm
and
happy
see.
to have Richard be it, but I think we should.
Maybe
ask
you want it.
them.
Yeah, you should figure out someone from your group. You're
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay. Anything, any other corrections? Any other corrections, additions, comments? Other, yes, Paul,
Is this appropriate, or is this within the board?
go ahead. No, feel free.
Back to the road commissioner, was there any other interest in the position?
There was, but statutorily, it's supposed to be your town manager. So to meet legal requirements, that's what we're gonna do. And it's only till we have a town manager. And Allison will work with us.
That's the
And
statute. if you're
yes, I don't
interested.
have a copy of the statute in front of me to read it. Sorry.
So can I make a motion that we approve the changes to our appointment list as written?
Seconded.
I have a motion to approve the appointment list first draft as written. Any discussion? Wait till Paul. Give me a second.
Any question?
Yes, sir.
If we're approving this and we're gonna make some changes, how does that work?
It's first draft,
First draft, okay.
first draft.
First draft.
Are you okay if we go ahead, Paul?
All right, go ahead.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Junkyard ordinance legal opinion. So I poked at Larry and it's salvage yard, not a junkyard. So under current Vermont law, a salvage yard includes outdoor storage of 4 or more vehicles which have been unregistered for 90 days or more. The owner or operator requires a certificate of approved location from the select board and an operational certificate from the state transportation board. And the location and use must conform with local zoning regulations. Westminster's ordinance defines a junkyard to include outdoor storage of 3 or more vehicles unregistered for 30 days or more, which are visible from a public highway. So that is Larry's legal opinion of the salvage yard ordinance. So the property that's on Morsebrook Road does not meet that requirement. I did email Larry and ask a clarifying question because there are no vehicles associated with the property. And he has not responded. So I'm going with putting up a fence. They've agreed to put up a fence. As long as the rest of the select board is okay with that decision, then I would consider this matter closed.
So there are not vehicles
They're
there?
not
So this doesn't necessarily apply?
correct, does not apply to them.
Okay, and so they are voluntarily putting up a fence?
And this, yes,
The neighbors that rallied at the last meeting for this resident already came in and asked for permits for the fence because they are moving forward with that.
So actually, what we could do is simply thank them for their putting up a fence, but we're not requiring them to because we don't have any legal action to take here. So the property owner themselves are resolving this issue, at least for the moment. And that's nice, so it's no longer our problem as a
Correct.
town.
correct.
Unless there were vehicles there.
Or unless they just got the permits and all this and never do it. Then it comes back to us.
If they're volunteering to put a fence up, doesn't make any difference.
The fence is simply their own private action, I
Right, yes.
believe. It's not a mandated action, it's not to address any statutory requirement. So the best we can do is say thank you.
I agree.
Um,
I'm just worried about if they don't put it up, then those people that are complaining come back to us,
They'll
and
come
then we
back.
gotta hear them again.
More
have
complaints
nothing
are
to
always,
say, yeah. We'll just have to plan on that when it comes.
but it does seem like it will be closed without any official action on our part.
Yeah.
Yes. All right, hazard mitigation plan survey, we didn't need a motion for anything regarding that, correct?
Yeah, and I'm sorry.
You're fine.
I was just noticing on our appointments list, and then just thinking back on the minutes of last meeting, and the creation of another committee.
Oh,
Which I don't know whether, I think it would appear on the appointments list, and good thing it's just first draft. There's the capital plan.
that's not a committee.
It's not a committee?
No, we didn't make a committee,
Oh, good.
but there's the hiring town manager.
There's town manager hiring committee, and that is a committee? Or is that,
That was that's technically a committee.
and so that would be another, it just doesn't appear on this appointment list. The plan has to be assembled by some people or peoples.
Yes. So are you suggesting we create a 5-year capital plan committee? Or just add the town hiring committee and deal with the 5-year capital plan?
Honestly, it would be a town manager job for a permanent town manager
Okay.
to work on. So it may be something that is a very important job. It'd be nice to have done before next year's town meeting, but not to be forgotten. Yes, it's
Okay.
things. I consider it an important job, but very much within the scope of hopefully a permanent town manager if we can hopefully hire.
Okay, so we will create that committee when we have a town manager?
Town manager can do it.
Okay, all right
We
then,
can approve it.
all right. We will add the town manager hiring committee to the appointment list. Do you need a motion for that? Please say no.
It,
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Okay, all right, all right.
It is an appointed committee.
If I could offer,
Yes, Chip?
as a service, I can begin that process for you now in accumulating
The
and
capital planning.
capital planning and just providing information.
Yeah, it's largely a matter of assembling the needs
Yes.
of various pieces of the town.
Even just listing it to start with and getting it in front of you more than what you've had.
Sure.
Okay. Moving on. All right, hazard mitigation plan survey. Okay, so I brought a copy of the hazard mitigation plan if anybody wants to look at it. I don't know as you really need to, but,
This is a single plan, a single copy, I assume.
yes, a single copy because it's like
Oh,
a
yes.
lot of pages.
It is.
So we need to designate a person that will share our responses with Vermont Emergency Management. Using the link below, I would say our Emergency Management Director, Peter, but he's not here to ask. Can I ask Ben Mashur to help with that?
What's that?
Reporting the results of our
There's-
little conversation.
Well, there's a lot in the hazard mitigation plan
Right,
for the emergency management director to do.
right,
I mean, yeah, essentially it should be, I would say, the emergency management director's responsibility.
yes,
But as I shared with you guys in the past, that if the emergency management director, if that's to be done correctly, that
right.
really there should be, I don't know what Peter wants. He's
Well,
not here, but
right,
I mean, there can be quite a bit of work with it,
yeah.
is all.
This is.
So I guess that's up to him, I can't speak for him.
Right. That's old. It's from July.
Yeah, that's what.
Yeah. So tonight, what we have to do is we have to talk about these questions quickly and then go back and share them with Vermont Emergency Management. So I guess we'll just start with the first question. Which individuals or groups within your community would be most harmed by or have the most difficult time recovering from a natural hazard event, such as flooding, ice, wind, heat, wildfire? And these will be referred to as our frontline community members.
Is that's not covered already in our hazard plan here?
It
I mean,
is not lined out in that way.
And this plan has been, it's past its public comment period. Are we doing additional comments to it, changes to it at this point? Or is this getting modified by our action tonight?
I am not sure. This is just something they're requiring us to do.
Something.
Yes,
I
Ben?
don't think that it's a requirement for you guys to act on anything as a change.
We
I
just
think
have to
they're
discuss
looking
it.
for a response back
Right. That,
throughout the state to understand what communities.
It's a survey.
Yeah, essentially a survey.
Essentially,
Yeah,
here's your
that's right.
discussion and report.
They want a response back from it, but essentially a survey, so,
Yeah,
yeah. I don't think it's something that needs to be voted on. I don't know that for sure, but
just a
That was
discussion.
my take on it from the emails.
Yeah, my take was it was just needed to be a discussion, but, I would say most of our population is older or aging, and they would be the most vulnerable for people who have a house next to water.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the agricultural community.
Yeah, I know.
Flooding, ice, wind,
Ice,
heat,
wind,
wildfire.
wind, yes.
We have them all this week. didn't
Which
we?
are all the things that are covered in the,
Trees, huh?
yeah. Hazard mitigation plan, flooding and wind, those are your,
Ice.
yes. Paul,
This is only a suggestion based on past experience, but your players at this table should probably most likely be your planning commission. They create your town plan, your emergency management coordinator, who is gonna be very involved in an event like that, along with your fire chief. And if nothing else, probably if nobody else to be included, possibly your ambulance service, but that would be within the jurisdiction of your fire chief and your EM anyway. Those are your real players. And whoever your Wyndham County regional representative is would also be a player at that table, because Wyndham has a lot of say on how we create these and design these.
right,
So we can hear him. Thank you,
sorry, ma'am.
thanks.
Yeah,
Given the input, Madam Chair, from Paul Bannock, I suggest that we immediately move to table this to the next meeting and make a concerted effort to see if we can have those people present for this discussion.
I also remember from past experiences, this process you're in right now is more or less just a stamp saying we recognize we need this, and then you put your players in motion, but they probably can fill that survey out much better than you could right now.
Thank you for your predicate direction, appreciate it. I'd like to move to table, and with the intent of seeking the people that Paul just enunciated.
I have a motion, second?
Second.
I have a motion to table the hazard mitigation plan survey until the April 12th meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Moving on. Chip,
Oh, so glad we have this time together.
I know.
After watching your last meeting and hearing discussion on trustees of public funds, I just wanted to share a conversation that I had with office staff. This is a brief one-pager that is held by the assistant clerk as a reminder of the public funds that you have and where they originated from, and then what their purposes are. And what is the reality here in terms of fiscal responsibility? And then whether or not we should try to get out of that fiscal responsibility, because financially it doesn't make sense anymore. So I'll give you a chance to read through with the general understanding that at the time that these fiducial responsibilities were turned over to the town, the amount of money involved in principal was a meaningful amount of money, was generating sufficient value in earnings to meet the obligation that was provided at that time. And we are now 50+ years beyond for the most recent one. And so the whole process of holding funds, $350, in a separate account at a bank, and having someone do and organize 1 penny or 2 penny journal entries monthly, for which the only thing changing in that account is the interest being earned for the last 10, 12 years. No expenditures have gone out because there's not enough money to do anything with this. So looking through all of those funds that you have, I don't know if you printed the balance sheet for Fund 502, but at some point I passed out to the board all the balance sheets, and Fund 502 is the fiducial fund. There are lots of accounts on there. What we did in another town that I worked with, we inquired first with town council, and then the treasurer drafts a letter to probate explaining that this no longer makes sense. And the board can choose for each one of these what you would like to have happen. It can be that the total value is given to another organization who has the same goal that this had intended, and that they then administer it. And for some of these, that may mean flags or decorations for soldiers. The flags get put up by the Legion, and the Legion buys those every year. So the $350 for one time closes us out of doing penny journal entries, but we give it to the Legion for the purpose of buying flags. And we've met the obligation because the long-term commitment since 1956 can't be obtained in the East and West Parish to decorate soldiers' graves. We just can't do that for 12 cents a year. So looking at all of those various funds, including the top one, the Campbell Fund, 1876, I think, was the year, $5,000 was the total, and you were endowed if you had $5,000. Today, $5,000 doesn't generate enough money to pay a person's oil bill. So again, this one built up to a level of $8,000 over time by not being used. It was generating about $59 to $60 of interest monthly. But checks were being written for $100, $150, $200, $250, $300. And so recently, because the commitment was $5,000, the trustees of public funds took $3,000 off of that, put it into the checkbook to distribute the funds. So what interest we were gaining, it's gonna be cut in half. And again, the whole principle of the $5,000 for the indigent, if you will, you can no longer ask anyone who comes to you for aid, whether they're on food stamps, whether they're on Medicaid, whether they're anything about them, in which in 1876, none of those public services were available. So it was clear. The option was to go to the service officer of the town and try to get help. So its purpose was met, ran for a long time, but today, for this amount of money, the amount of overhead to just maintain the money, you can't justify financially doing it. Yes?
And Chip, so these funds, I want to correct my impression, these funds haven't increased in proportion to inflation since 1876. They were essentially used down to their threshold constantly, not really invested and increased, but actually used down to their original gift amount. So the original gift amount at $5,000 was spectacular in 1876 and is relatively trivial now.
Yes.
So
Depends who you are, whether that's trivial. Yes.
but from a town point of view, relatively trivial. And so even that biggest one would be something that we don't really need to manage separately now that is comparatively small.
Well, and because of the nature of which it was granted, you can't ask the questions to determine whether someone qualifies. However, I can tell you checks are still being written out of that Campbell Fund to individuals, and typically it's the months of November in December. So, again, I can also tell you that all of the bank accounts, bank statements aren't coming to this town hall.
Correct.
And I'm the one trying to do the reconciliation, and so we're chasing stuff. As well, I'm not sure that the trustees of public funds is an active group of 3 who meet, take minutes, and vote on whether to take action or not. I don't think that's happening. So the purpose of all of this is really to say, are we, and you as a board are the fiduciary responsible for all deposits, everything held in accounts. Is this the best thing for us to still be doing with these amounts of monies? And on that balance sheet you just got handed, you're looking at the top lines, which are the assets. There are significant assets in there. Some of those that are the investments, $60,000, $30,000, various amounts. Even those statements, which are held in CDs, don't meet a threshold test, which now has been set at $100,000. If you're not managing something for $100,000, then is it still responsible to hang on to that when it's not generating anything that can meet the purpose? So I don't know what the F. Miller Milk Fund is, but that must have a purpose. It's not on this one. It's not in this list.
It's not that Frank Miller Health Fund?
Yeah.
I mean, it looks like it's probably that one.
Yeah.
And the question to that one is, why doesn't it belong to the schools? Since it was given to the schools. Doesn't it?
At the time, town and school,
Or one.
Yeah.
and the town still has it.
So we could give it to the school.
We could gift it to the school. Well, that becomes the whole question is, why does it exist now? It's to provide something for students.
Oh.
So yes, can we dissolve it? Is it totally expendable? Meaning there's no restriction on the amount of money. We can spend it down to 0. We just never have. Each one of these, I think, bears looking at and determining whether or not you should be maintaining these or trying to dissolve these and disseminate the funds. Meet the obligation, but not carry the obligation longer.
And if we can actually legally dissolve them.
You can.
All of
You
them?
have to go through probate because all of these are actions taken through probate to award you value. So that's what the exercise was. You briefly talked about at your last meeting about consolidating. Well, I'm not saying consolidate, I'm saying obliterate. Determine that for $200 to maintain one gravesite on the interest only, nothing, not even your perpetual care money, makes enough money to mow the grass. It's not that we should lose the perpetual care fund, but our funding to mow the grass is in the general fund as a regular expense. And all the interest that that's earning is not coming back to the general fund at all. It just keeps growing over here. So that's the quandary. One of the choices you have is to do nothing.
I'm not saying do nothing, but I have had, from the last meeting, when this was mentioned, I have had a couple people call me with concerns, so I think it's something we need to discuss and research and come back to later.
Oh, absolutely. And you've got the list in front of you of what those assets are. I can't even tell you that I've seen the bank statements for all of them, because I haven't. There's a whole slew of the larger investment ones. I spent the day with the auditors here yesterday, and they're asking for bank statements and can't produce them. So
Okay.
that suggests there's just overall how it's being administered.
And by that happening, I didn't even know that some of these existed.
Right.
Because we don't get the statements here.
Is this I appreciate your due diligence on this, is this the complete list of accounts that you just know of, or is it a comprehensive list that your date certain tonight that this is it, this is what we have?
So If it's not in the financials and I'm not getting the statements, I don't know about it.
Okay,
So this is what I know about.
okay.
There are additional funds that at this point have a separate bank account, which I think should just be consolidated to the general fund checkbook and run through that series of due to from accounts that we've seen in the past. Because the mechanism, if you will, of loading that account, I want to say it's capital improvement or something that has its own bank account. And right now, I think the general fund owes it $50,000 or something from years of transfers, but the money never moved. I'm suggesting let's just stop that crap and close it, put it in the general fund. Like every other fund, there's an amount owed to it from the general fund checkbook. We write our checks in one place. We deposit all our money in one place. Simplify this. So there's many of those types of accounts.
Well, thank you very much. I'm not I'm sorry, Dan, did you want to speak?
Just where are these statements, bank statements coming if we don't know where they're coming?
They don't come to here.
Where do they go? That's my question.
Pete Harrison, P.O. Box 43, or something like that.
Who's he?
He's the trustee of public funds, one of the
yeah.
three. There may not, and again, they may have vacancies, I don't know. Those are elected positions.
They're elected positions.
Yeah. And so,
Pete's very friendly, he'll be happy to talk to you.
oh yeah, when looking for stuff, we were missing bank statements in '22 for the audit, some November, December, and January of '22, November, December of '21. In order to do the audit, I needed those statements because checks were clearing the bank. And, you know, our book said there's $1,200 in the checkbook, and the bank statement, when I got it, said there's 500. Well, something changed.
They write, Pete writes the checks as well?
Yes. Writes, signs,
Seems like there's gotta be a better way to do that.
well, that's what the trustees do, of public funds.
I meant
What I
consolidate.
don't know is they as a group are subject to open meeting law. And so warned that they're gonna meet, set an agenda, meet, take minutes, take action. And what my belief is what's happening is he's contacted, he agrees and pays a bill. He doesn't pay the person, he pays the vendor.
Oh, may I? Madam Chair, everyone present, thank you. So, thank you very much again for your synopsis. I'm not an expert on this, however, there's $152,737 here, so this is a substantial amount of money. Moreover, I would be concerned as a taxpayer and a citizen as to what our fiduciary responsibility is to all these financial funds as they were originally established, irrespective of the excellent comments by Willis tonight. Before we do anything, to make sure we get a very accurate and clear, concise legal opinion from a responsible authority as to how we can and cannot use them. And I would also, Mr. Vice Chair and Chair and the rest of the board, I think it's probably very important that we get, in the interest of time, see if we can get Pete in to illuminate the terrain in which we now currently find ourselves deployed. But thank you for doing exactly what we asked you to do, because it's good to know that these are our assets. And this isn't, I mean, still $152,000.
Yes.
So
They're
I think we should
fiduciarily
get them in here.
responsible for them, their assets by your federal ID, but they're totally restricted in one way, shape, or form.
And the question, which we don't know, is how do we unravel that? How do we untie that?
Right.
That could be stated.
And under the circumstances where we're carrying 7 bank accounts,
Yeah. Good job.
you know,
Thank you.
Peter is in South Carolina, so I don't know when I think maybe May he's home.
Okay.
Just a note that of that 152, 104,000 approximately are for the cemeteries, collectively for, you know, individual cemeteries and all, but it's basically cemetery money. And I could see the cemeteries able to use the income from that money for projects, and could also readily see consolidating all of the cemetery's funds in town into one cemetery portion, and just even if we don't get rid of these funds, if we simply consolidate them under cemeteries collectively, and then the cemetery commission does its due diligence in operating the cemeteries, that would make it simpler anyway.
Yes.
May I have a quick question building on what you just said, Steve? So in your travels, which are a lot, have you seen other towns do this?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So you'd be able to also maybe present some type of a comparable strategy that you've seen before?
So,
That's best practices?
well, the steps that I started with and you confirmed, we want to know on each case, when did it originate? What was its purpose? What are the strings attached? There are expendable trusts, meaning the total amount can be spent.
Okay.
Under that circumstance, you may choose to instruct the trustees of public funds to expend it. It's costing us money to have somebody come in and reconcile and post a penny interest.
Yeah.
You know, so, but it's gotta be spent on its purpose. For the larger ones, if it's a purpose that you can't, by federal law, ask questions, then your obligation to meet what was laid out in 1876 no longer is relevant. You can't do that. Somehow you are doing it, but you can't do it. So that process says, look, probate, this is how it was given to us. The rules today are this. We would like to take these funds and turn them over to Westminster Cares. Let Westminster Cares administer them to Westminster residents, which is something of a service they already do. And they are outside of the regulations, if you will, that the town is under.
I think it's a great idea.
And that's where you,
My position would just simply be, we
Yeah.
want to make sure we have an ironclad legal
yes,
opinion that enables us to
In-
make
in
sure
the
when we're
end-
making this decision that it's correct and it has precedence
yeah,
and we can do it.
yeah. In the end, any of the non-expendable funds, meaning where the principal balance can't be spent, you have to go back to the voters and say, this is what we want to do, and have them approve that this is the action the board wants to take, and then probate addresses it.
Okay.
So you're being relieved first by the voters of this fiducial obligation, and then if probate agrees, the action takes place.
So that'd be town meeting next year.
Or whenever you have a town meeting, yes.
Okay, all right,
Okay?
thanks.
Is there anything else on the agenda you want me to be available to participate in?
I don't think I have anything. Does anybody want Chip to stay for anything?
No, thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Chip.
Sheriff, I'll be quick. So I spoke with the sheriff. He should come in and address the board. He did mention, which we'll do at a future date, he did mention that he had spoken with Karen and Putney, and they are interested in doing a joint, however, that was set up before, between Putney and Westminster. I inquired as to why that didn't work before, and he said there were staffing issues at that time, and then we decreased the budget due to the staffing issues, and then we basically, because we reduced our funding for the sheriff, the arrangement between the two towns wasn't gonna work because Putney was basically, they were having the sheriff there twice as much as Westminster was. And there was creating conflict because they weren't here enough. But now they have more staff, and he doesn't feel that that would be an issue, but I told him he had to come and address the board. But I also feel like we should research our other options, because my opinion from the voters was that they wanted to know what their options were. So,
What is the process of researching our other options?
some phone calls. Mostly. To start with.
Because I
To start
don't know if we have a organized list of other options yet to even research. I mean,
You only
there were
had a
some things
couple.
mentioned at town meeting.
Your options are checking with Rockingham, checking with Walpole,
Mhm.
hiring an independent person.
Hiring our own
Or-
constable or.
Correct. That's pretty much it. Unless did I miss anything?
Somebody needs to do some legwork and get some
I mean,
numbers. and then go
That's
from
pretty
there.
much what it is phone calls and numbers.
Just briefly, we did have, correct me if I'm wrong, Jason, we did have the representatives of Bellows Falls, Rockingham here.
Mhm.
And they too had expressed their
Staffing issues.
staffing issues.
So they sort of said, I'm not sure we can. Is that what they were saying?
Yes,
And we haven't had that conversation with Walpole.
no, we have not.
We didn't even really have a conversation with Rockingham, it was just a comment that they responded to.
Right.
There was no monies, there wasn't.
Yeah.
It was a,
No presentations.
no.
Correct.
It would be, I mean, we have, I believe that town meeting put $120,000 into this project. Knowing that that is what the town has to spend, perhaps others, rather than just the sheriff, would be willing to talk to us about their proposals or even any internal proposals that we have.
Or a board member or two be willing to go to a meeting
Right.
in Walpole or Rockingham or whatever. Bring it to them.
I certainly have no problem volunteering myself for Walpole.
I would do the same.
Anybody want to make a motion to do that, or do you want to just go?
Happy to do it.
I mean, we're just getting information, so.
Right,
Okay.
that's just
All
information.
right.
Information.
All right.
And how about, what would it take to prepare a proposal for essentially in-house service? You know, a town police officer, constable, whatever you call them.
I don't think you can afford it for 120,000.
I think Stephen's talking about the process though, should we at least
Yeah,
we should at least do-
acquire what the process would be?
Obviously, we would have to think of what does a person cost and then what does the equipment cost, and it could be that we have an affordable possibility, but it could be that the equipment could be unaffordable as well.
It's the backup.
Or the backup could be
Backup if you
unaffordable.
hire.
Yes.
You know
Yeah,
better.
you're gonna have more than one.
Okay,
I see, yeah.
VLCT could probably answer that question.
so Jason and I though will meet with Bellows Falls and Walpole for
Okay.
informational
So you vote,
exchange.
okay, thank you, that was a question, thank you.
Thank
You
you.
had a question on that?
Yes.
Just like to save a little time about Walpole, New Hampshire officers cannot act under color of law in Vermont.
Yeah.
And
All right.
like
That may save some time.
Looks like we've been cut in half.
So right there, you cut in half. You got one meeting to go to. Okay. Paul?
Thank you. The town did at one time, not so long ago, have a constable who, that person served as more as a liaison between the agencies around us. And I don't, that might be part of what that might be spent on, was to put that back into the service appointments. It's a starting point. They can build relationships with the area departments. I understand what this gentleman just said, so that rules out a couple, but.
Yeah.
There's somebody to do some legwork for you. And have a presence in town as well.
Do we want to have a discussion about a constable at a different time? Get more info?
Did you say you want to be constable?
Yeah, did you just volunteer,
You sure you
Paul?
want me to?
I remember my dad, who always drove too fast when he drove. Being irritated by Westminster did have a town constable at one time, a long time ago. He doesn't drive anymore, so don't worry.
So we'll do some research and come back to the constable thing.
Okay.
With the
Yeah, well, Jason and I will.
Yeah. Okay, we'll gather info
Check on those
and
first.
table it. Town clerk resignation acknowledgement. So on March 10th, we received a letter from Pauline. Dear Katrina, Kevin, Jason, Stephen, and Dan. After weeks of deliberation, I made the decision to return to the world of school administration and have accepted a position with the Compass School. I am very excited to assume this role, but I'm melancholy about leaving the town of Westminster as town clerk. It's been an interesting and rewarding adventure since October 2020. My plan is to leave town hall on March 31st, 2023, and begin my new career with Compass on April 3rd. In the interim, she will support the clerk's office towards an easy transition. Her recommendation to the select board is to appoint Patty Mark as town clerk and Ally Bigwood as assistant town clerk. This configuration has worked well when the office was transitioning into me coming on board. Both Patty and Ally have a great partnership and the experience and background knowledge to move forward with town clerk office functions. Please reach out with any questions or concerns. Best regards, Pauline. The notice of vacancy for town clerk has been posted. We had 10 days to post that, and that was Monday, I believe. So that the notice of the vacancy has been posted. And the vacancy reads that the select board will appoint a town clerk at their meeting on April 26th. From anybody who turns in a letter of interest.
I'll make a motion to accept the resignation of Pauline Blake O'Brien as town clerk.
Kevin, you second that?
Motion has been made and seconded to accept the resignation of Pauline Blake O'Brien as town clerk. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Moving on. Fates Ford speed limit request. Oh.
Do you need to appoint Patty? Is that the route we're gonna go, or we probably do?
I believe we do.
Yeah. I'm not sure, but so hold on, Larry sent me an email. By state statute,
She's automatic.
she is automatically assumes the role of town clerk.
Do we need to appoint Allison as assistant town clerk?
She's already been appointed.
Yeah. She's, assistant town clerk that's not an appointed position, it's hired, correct?
It's hired by the clerk.
It's hired by the clerk, so Patty's covered that, so we're good.
Okay.
I don't think I have Larry's printed email on that. Sorry. Are we okay to move forward?
Yeah.
All right. Phase 4, speed limit request.
Okay, I put this in the emails from Faith. I don't know how to say his last name, but it's Faith's Toyota Ford. And I wrote a letter per the Vermont Agency of Transportation because they do not set speed limits on state highways. State statute requires that speed limits on state-maintained highways be set by the Vermont Traffic Committee. So town's governing body, typically so the select board, may request a change in speed limit on a state highway by writing a letter. I formulated a letter. It doesn't mean that you have to sign, doesn't mean you have to agree with his request for the 1.2 miles to be brought down to 35 miles per hour. He's claiming numerous accidents to this past winter, but he doesn't think winter had anything to do with it because it was fairly dry this winter. He just, and there's no particular time of day when these accidents occur. So it's your pleasure. If you choose to sign this letter, I can have it sent up to V-Trans, and then they do their legwork on it.
What portion of road are they interested in, or does your letter mention?
All right, so it does say, so if you're heading south on Route 5, in front of Compass School, the speed limit is 40. Then jumps to 50 at the recycling center. And then stays 50 for 1.2 miles past Father's Restaurant, Faith Ford, and then drops to 35 in front of Harlow's Farm Stand Cafe Loco. And stays 35 until you get to the Wyndham Northeast, just past that, and then it goes to 50 again.
For a tiny stretch of road.
Right. Again, this is up to you. If you don't have to, you can, but if you would like. I did the test. It's the gut, I think it's the gut test or something like that. It's, I didn't have anyone with me, but I drive that way every day, twice a day. And I am consistently, I didn't look, like they say, don't look at your speedometer. I am consistently within 5 miles per hour of 50 since I've got this request. So it's a comfortable, I don't feel like I'm speeding. I don't feel like I'm going too slow. But the customers that are going in there, I think they see the beginning of the dealership and they don't know where the opening is. And that's all gonna change, so they really slow down to pull in. I think he's changing that whole front end when he rebuilds. It's gonna be a larger opening to pull into his buildings. Per the DRB meeting that I attended, so. He's doing a whole huge brand new building down there. So I don't know.
I have no preference, I speed everywhere, so. I'll be honest.
I've always been a little heavy, but I always thought it was a little fast too, even, so that's, my gut is, probably should be 40 down through there. There's a lot of businesses and fathers and people pulling in and
He's
out.
requesting 35, that's why it's in the letter, but.
Yeah, yes, Chuck?
Mark Pickering, the engineer for the state, cautioned us on this in other places. And what they'll do is a traffic study, and if they find that the average traffic is 60 going by there, they'll bump it up to 55. It's not necessarily gonna go down when you do this.
That's right.
Just warning you, that's all.
Okay. Yes, Paul?
Just a public comment, I live on the back Westminster Road, that road was always posted at 35 with 2 drop downs to 35 by my road, Berkshire Heights, and the trailer park. It has since been changed a few years ago to 35 from end to end. It doesn't work. There's no one doing 35.
Right now, it's where everybody's gearing up for the Indy 500, more the time trial road.
So the net effect of that is for people who live on these roads are getting pushed like freight trains for everybody behind you.
And once again, where's the sheriff? Oh, that's right, I don't see him anywhere. Have a nice day.
So it's a nice suggestion, but I just don't see it working. Doesn't work on our road.
And technically, it's not our road anyway.
Yeah, it was specifically endorsing Ally's letter if we choose to.
Even if you sign it, doesn't mean they're gonna do it.
That doesn't mean they're gonna do it.
Correct.
It just like Chuck said, it could be even faster.
Right.
Can the business owner appeal directly to the Vermont Transportation Board?
I didn't see that in here, Stephen. I didn't see that in the response.
He can do this direct appeal without us, with or without our endorsement.
It doesn't say that. A town's governing body may request a change.
Okay, so it's difficult for him to say,
Right.
as an individual, a private person, please slow it down.
Right.
Correct.
And we would be the gatekeeper to that request going forward.
Yep.
At this point, Madam Chair, I'll move to close debate and ask for a vote. Move to vote. Whether or not we're gonna sign this letter or not.
I have no, I'll sign it. I mean, it's not our choice anyway.
Well, is that a call to question?
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay, so we have to vote on call.
unless you have more to discuss.
I was just wondering about putting it down up to 40 and to make it easier to swallow.
You can't do that yourself.
No.
No, I mean, but in the letter.
In the letter.
Moving the letter to 40.
Moving the letter.
That sounds reasonable
That's
to
not what the
me.
guy asked for.
It's not what he asked for, but
Yeah, but.
if you choose to sign this letter tonight, I can go down and it's up on my computer. I can change it to 40 if that's your preference. Or if you choose not to sign, just let me know what you want to do.
Do we want to sign it? That's
Well-
the simple question. And 35 or 40?
Well, I will move to vote on the letter, with the amendment, from Stephen to increase the, maximum, MPH to 40 miles per hour.
I'll second.
I have a motion to sign, endorse the letter to reduce the speed limit on Route 5 in Fates Ford, a stretch of 1.2 miles of road from 50 miles an hour to 40 miles per hour. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? One abstention.
Oh,
Okay.
Stephen, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Sorry, Stephen. Moving along. Award paving bids. We have paving bids. Somewhere. I have a file. Chuck, do you want to talk to the paving bids since I really don't know much about it? Or does Jason, anybody?
I don't know anything about it.
You ran them?
Here, Chuck, I
What do
read
you
them.
wanna know? We put them out to bid.
Yep.
Springfield paving came in the lowest.
Is that apples to apples?
Yes.
So they're all supposed to do the same thing? No, I read it, I know what it is.
Well, then you see that it's all spelled out exactly the same.
Yep. So,
So we broke it
but
down.
just because it's spelled out the same,
No, that's the way it is.
That's the way it is.
Apples to apples, yeah. That's why we did it this way. It never used to be done this way. So it wasn't.
no, that's, my question is they bid on it and then they don't do what they say. That's,
Thank you, ma'am.
so,
No, because they're doing it by the square yard.
okay, so you keep an eye on that and make sure we get what we get.
Exactly.
Okay. Are you comfortable with Springfield paving?
I think so.
Okay, there you go. There was.
So Pike came in at the, 244,500, but they did not bring in their insurance.
Yeah.
So that eliminates them. Allstate was 259,521. Basin Brothers was 221,844. Springfield was 198,698.40. So Springfield actually was the cheapest. The Basins would have been next. They all were roughly 20,000 difference. They've all paved here before.
I'll make a motion to approve the paving bid for Springfield paving, not to exceed 198,698.40 cents.
I will second that.
I have a motion to award the paving bid to Springfield Paving not to exceed $198,698.40. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Town Manager Search Committee report.
Can I make it quick?
Yes, please, thank you.
We did have our meeting. It was in the snowstorm, so only half of our crew showed up. We have put together some advertisements to be put out. I will make sure you guys all get those on email in the next couple days for your approval. We have a sort of a long version and a short version. We've gone through a list of different ways to advertise. And I guess our next step would be, like, once we know for sure if you're okay with those advertisements, we're gonna need to get pricing, but it seems like it's gonna be quite expensive if I know Mr. Majors mentioned you'd like to advertise in a lot of places. And it could be expensive, so we just wanna make sure you guys are okay with that. The other thing is that you had mentioned in my research, there's actually quite a few towns in Vermont looking for town managers, so this might not be something that happens right off, but we certainly are gonna keep getting together and trying to get the ball rolling as fast as possible and as effectively as possible. That's about it. You guys have any questions or?
What's expensive? You throw a number?
Yeah, you can address one of them at least.
I can address one of them.
Yeah.
So, there's So VLCT for us is free, to advertise. The ad runs for 30 days and then you can just renew it. If we hired a recruitment service to help us with the advertising, et cetera, we'd give them the ad copy, they spread it around. They would create ad copy for us, but we've basically done that already. And the estimates, the one estimate that I have, does the New England area, it also has national outreach, and it was $1,000 is what he budgeted for advertising alone. There's additional fees if we want them to do additional things, but we're gonna try to get more numbers from other recruitment services, but initially, roughly probably $1,000 to $1,500 for advertising.
Or what?
And VLCT.
One
Just-
ad.
So it's, that would go to, there was the ICYM or something like that, was national, and I can't remember what that stood for. New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Maine, and Vermont. And whatever newspaper, or plural newspapers we chose.
I also found that some other towns have advertised on Indeed, ZipRecruiter, Craigslist. There's a state of Vermont Governor Careers, our webpage and that type of thing. Obviously, we would run it on that, but I guess once we get you to look at our ads and see if you think that they're adequate, from there, we would have to decide, we'll just write on the quotes and stuff and get them back to you for your approval on those. And then from that point on, hopefully we'll start to receive some applications. Yeah.
Where does the money come from for the hiring process? What sort of budget do we have? What's the?
I don't know anything about that at this point. That's kind of why we're bringing that to you folks. I was actually going to ask for some information about the previous hiring. Maybe what was spent on that. I know VLCT, I believe, was the company that helped us with that. They did give us a quote or a rough estimate of what they would charge to do the entire thing, but I don't know, just with my research, I'm seeing a lot of different places that we can advertise. Again, how much do we want to spend to?
That might come out of the select board expense line.
Oh, it does?
It might.
So I guess I would give it to you guys.
I don't think VLCT did much on our last
No, they didn't,
debacle.
because
Okay, yeah.
They recommended a firm to do a background check, but they didn't do it themselves. It was a separate company
Right.
that, quite frankly, didn't do a very good job for what we paid them,
Right.
in my opinion.
Yeah. And I think right at the moment, we're kind of going step by step. I know it's something that we need to get done, and of course, we want to get Ally some help and the rest of the girls downstairs, but at the same time, I would like to make sure that we try to make the best decision that we can make. So we'll research the rest of it. We'll get you the advertisements that we came up with, see what you think, and if you can get them back to us, that'd be awesome. And we'll go from there.
Thank you, Chris.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would add, do you need a number? We need to know what we got to spend on this. So then, I don't know how you know.
Well, that's
Yeah,
why I
so
was
we gotta get a
gonna,
number.
just see if you guys had
Yeah,
from the
so-
last time what you spent.
Right.
And if you were willing to spend that much again, or if you thought you'd want to spend more. That could be something that I could ask actually as a question. And Ally might know, she may have.
I'm gonna say, we need a budget for this.
It was 600, we got a deal.
No, it was supposed to be, it was
Deals
supposed
always
to
cost
be.
you in the end.
600 and change, and because he had just done the previous fella's background check for another establishment, we got charged half price. Such a deal. So it's
It
$300.
would have been $700 or something,
Yeah.
like 680 or something.
Yeah.
It would seem in this job environment, hiring somebody for a salary which is not huge, it'd be quite a challenge to get somebody. And we will need to look pretty broadly in order to find anybody. And then we want somebody who will actually stay and do a good job. So it would seem that local businesses looking for a manager at this time would be paying a good bit more than $700 or $7,000 to do this sort of thing. So I wouldn't be surprised if we were to have to advertise generously and do our due diligence in terms of background check appropriately done and all that, and spend what we need in order to get a town manager that all is happy with.
Yeah, like I said, we just had the one meeting so far, but I think, collectively, that was gonna be our next question after we, if you guys think the advertisement is good, then of course our next question is how much are we willing to put towards that, which would also be a decision you folks would have to make, so.
So as soon as you come up with that, that'd be great.
Yep.
So we can move
We'll get that
with
shortly.
speed.
Has anybody read the ads?
Yeah,
The financial one is one we've already approved, because it's the one I wrote earlier this summer.
I think we put it in your packets.
They are in the
There.
packets.
And we have two versions, sort of a short version and a longer version. We could run the longer version like on our website or whatever, in places that it's either free or less expensive, and then we could just do a little flip on the things that cost a lot of money and hopefully reach the most people that, that might be, hopefully.
First objective, obviously, is to get a pool of qualified candidates.
Right.
Begin the initial consultation, and then we can go into the necessity, Stephen, for a more thorough and obviously more expensive background check.
Right.
To make sure what we learned the last time does not repeat.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, very good.
Thanks, Chris.
Well,
Do we want to review the ad copy and vote on it next meeting? Give you time to review it, or do 2 seconds right now?
So we have a hiring, town of Westminster hiring town manager search. And this has a list of duties.
Yes.
And characteristics or background. There's that one. And is there a separate one as well?
Yes, that's the financial director.
So, and is that also for essentially a town manager as well?
Well, I guess I should explain what we discussed a little bit. Our discussion actually entailed having sort of a 3-option plan. It would be great to find a town manager who was good with the people and did the managerial portion of it, and also a town manager that was, accountant savvy and could do the financial side of it as well. But we thought, just to utilize the best of everything, maybe we look for a financial advisor who might have a part-time position, depending on how much is there, and then have a town manager who would just simply manage the day-to-day business of the town. So that's why we have a couple different versions. And I guess that was a question that we had for you, do we just want to limit ourselves to finding one person to cover everything, or would you be open to, having a 2-part?
Look, I'm certainly open to, I can't believe I'm the senior person here now, it's crazy, right? I'm certainly open to, as you put it, relationship management skills in this day and age for this particular role are essential.
Yes.
This individual, he or she must be able to work well with others and suffer, disgruntledness as it comes in well.
Right.
At the same time, if we're asking a lot, as Stephen pointed out, in a very difficult job market, if that means we have to bifurcate it, I'm certainly open to anything as long as we get that qualified leader to be downstairs and make sure that he or she treats everybody with respect and is a good administrator and knows how to pivot and put people in the places they need to be and get things done in a timely fashion.
Right.
The finance thing is getting more and more complicated.
Right.
But if we can find that diamond in the rough, hey, have at it. But I'm wide open to having it bifurcated if necessary.
Okay.
Thank you for bringing that up, because it's very important.
Yes.
So Katrina, when do we decide which direction we're going, or do we go and advertise for both things now? And see what's out there? I mean, it seems like either we go for just a town manager, or we make the decision it's going to be two separate jobs and advertise for both, or we leave it to fate and we advertise for both and see what comes up.
Right.
I think if you're using the wider net, you know, we very probably could get lucky or luckier by advertising for both, and we might find somebody who actually could.
Right.
Potentially.
I guess we sort of thought at the meeting maybe that, if we advertise for both, of course, it's more expensive. But then, as you said, we left it to fate, and we were lucky enough to have somebody walk through the door, not only be the perfect candidate as far as managing the town, but also says, I've got a degree in accounting, and I'm familiar with all of your computer programs, so I guess it's up to, basically we're trying to get everybody help as soon as possible, some sort of help.
But when somebody responds to this ad, and they maybe ask, what does it pay?
Right.
And if they can do both jobs, do they get both salaries?
Right.
Do we then spend more for town manager than we are currently spending?
There is a line for finance, and there is a line for town manager.
There's a hiring or a salary line.
That's right.
And so we could hire both people as one item and pay them both salaries.
That's right.
But we could also we already have it built in that we could hire two separate people because the budget's built that way.
Correct.
So Chris would have an answer to the person, the theoretical person who comes and says, I can do one or the other or both.
Right.
And so that would be, at least that information is already built into our town budget. There's always negotiations as well, I assume.
Right. I did find with my research that a lot of these advertisements, they are advertising, a pay rate basically. And we kind of discussed that, and we weren't really sure, being that we might have the two positions, do we put that out? Do we try to have somebody, again, do we deter people from sending in an application by not saying how much we'd be willing to pay? Or do we deter them by saying how much we're willing to pay? You know what I mean? It's one of those things where, because some of the towns that you'll see if you look online that are advertising in Vermont, they have pretty substantial salaries for that position. So, but again, Burlington is not Westminster, Westminster is not Burlington, so there's a lot of little tricky parts to the whole thing, so.
Do we feel like approving the ad copy or, okay?
I move to approve the advertising solicitation for hiring of town manager and/or finance director as written.
I'll second it.
I have a motion to accept the ad copy as written for town manager and finance director as written. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Do we want to discuss the budget for spending, or? Yes, Paul?
Suggestion made to be commensurate the level of experience.
It's in,
Spending
I
for ad or
think,
spending for salary?
spending for ad was what I was focusing on,
That way you don't
not salary.
deter both ways, you will leave your door open and negotiate.
Yeah. I believe the ad doesn't list any salaries.
We didn't state the salaries in
Right.
our ad, yeah, because we were just not sure, would it be better to have somebody come and, at least get a chance to talk with them before.
At least, yeah.
Yeah, because you don't know necessarily, I would hope that any candidates would understand that Burlington is obviously gonna pay more than Westminster, but, if you put it in there and they see $100-something thousand, is everybody gonna send their application there? So I think we were just hoping at least to get a start and try to get somebody rolling along here.
We never had a salary in the other one,
Yeah,
in the ad.
Right, that's what I thought. Do we want to discuss budget for spending for advertising?
What's the select board's, line item?
I don't know.
You know,
I can go check.
I thought it was under $3,000, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I don't think
It's not a lot.
It's not a
It
lot.
doesn't seem like it would necessarily cover this.
Yeah, that seems like that's different. It's the
That's
town
more like,
managers.
we need to replace one of these microphones.
Well, while she's getting that info, can we move on to road foreman's report? Or do we want to continue discussion?
That's fine.
Road foreman's report?
Road foreman's report,
Yeah.
so everybody's familiar, we got a snowstorm last Tuesday.
No,
Two-thirds
Mick
of the town
totally
is
missed
without
that.
power until Saturday. There's still communication lines down throughout the town, there's still carnage, there's trees down that we continue to clean up. Since then, the roads have thawed out. So we're now experiencing mud where Corey's been grading. Walt, who's not here, has been raking. We've been continuing around. We did a little quick math to figure out what we had for damage just on gravel loss. We figured 50 miles of road, 15 feet wide, which all our roads are wider than that, but there's a few that aren't. So on an average, 15 feet wide, 1 inch thick, 12,000 yards of gravel at 1250 yard, $150,000. You know what our budget is for stone and gravel for a year?
Not that much.
50. So every time this, and this isn't the first time this year, this has happened a couple times. There's no way to avoid it. We've got rubber cutting edges, we got all kinds of things. There's no way to avoid it. So every time this happens, we go backwards. So all you got is 50,000, that's stone and gravel in our budget. So I'm just saying, and, okay, not just that, but as time goes on and the environment changes, and this continues to happen year after year, gravel is not a renewable resource. Once it's gone, it's gone. So if this continues to happen, we really gotta start thinking into the future. You know, people said before, maybe we should pave all the roads, and I go, we're gonna pave all the roads. I don't wanna live on a paved road. But the more I think about it, well, you do. Who farms paved? So, but the more you think about it, we're not gonna be able to keep up as a community with the gravel we're losing, with what there is with gravel around us to put it back. Something to just think about. If every time it snows, now the state's changed it, so now they want us to post the roads also in January. Just like in the spring. Keep heavy trucks off. No way to enforce it, but they still would like us to do it. So just food for thought, I guess.
Yes, Ally?
In your selectmen's expense, you have 26, just shy of $2,700 left.
How about in is there a expense for town hall administration or something that would correspond to that?
I think that's what I was just looking at.
What do we,
Finance officer line has 3360 in it. So that would help.
yeah. And I'm assuming our town manager stuff is all eaten up.
Not for me, I didn't do it.
I know you just.
No, you did a great job.
Let's see. I was looking for the treasurer. They don't put it, it's on the treasurer. Municipal building, heating, water, no. No, no, no.
So there's 36 for the finance director?
Yep.
Is that what you said?
Yes, and 27, just shy of 27 in your expense line.
Do we, so, I'm just trying to keep the town hiring committee moving. If they had, so $1,000 gives them a month if they place the ads through a recruitment service. I don't know what it would cost.
Chris, do you have any idea what you need for?
I don't really, and I mean, all of it is basically hinging on, the extent that everybody wants to go. We can certainly start small. It never hurts. I mean, if we can get somebody for a small advertisement fee, that's one thing, but, I don't know what the chances of that would be.
Right. Chances are dismal.
Yeah, probably.
Dismal.
Yep.
You could spend $1,000 and run it for a month and see what happens.
Yeah.
And then come back to the board.
Do you want us to, I'm sorry.
It's just a thought. I'm just throwing it out there, just to keep it moving.
Well, what we could do is do a little research, a little further research, now that you guys have approved the ads. We can start calling everybody and find out, where everybody is money-wise.
And then in the interim, we can also see what we can find in our budget to make sure that, or not make sure, hopefully make sure within the guidelines, we find enough capital to meet their expectation.
I do know Indeed is around $600.
Right.
Yeah.
So we'll look for the money, you'll come up with with how much you need, and hopefully the next meeting, we'll be ready to go.
Quick question? Yes, ma'am.
Do they go to colleges that have public administration programs?
Well, that was one of the other options that I had down, and I don't know if like VTC has a political science, or where the political science people are. But that's also something that we can definitely research to find out. I thought about that as well, if there was like I don't remember what they call those things, but when you're coming out of college, you go to a little event, a hiring forum, if there's something like that also, where they.
A job fair.
Yeah, a job fair, thank you. If there's, because I mean, who's to know? Maybe somebody comes right out of college and they really are, this is a great job for them, It's not, it's not like trying to run a big city, and, they may do well, so.
I believe we had one of those at one time, probably in Paul's time, the out of college, maybe before then, but.
The one that.
Not saying you couldn't find somebody that's really good.
Right.
That one ended up, I think, bad too after a year, but.
Oh, yes, yeah.
I can't think of his name.
And oftentimes, just to be honest, they start here and things are going well, and they're making X amount of dollars, and all of a sudden the next town says, well, geez, this kid, everybody's raving about him.
Yeah.
We'll pay him more money, so it's just a step, it could very well be, It'd be awesome to find some kid that comes out of college and wants to live right here and raise his family and stay for, 40
These are
years.
risks and assessments we can make as we make those questions, as we move through the group.
I think
And we
this is-
certainly can designate, and, hey, I mean, you can ask that question. I mean,
Right.
3 years from now, you're doing well, but
Right.
you
Where do you
get a
see
job
yourself?
offer.
Yeah, where do you see yourself?
There you go.
Is this a step?
It is part of the whole risk of this process.
Right. I say every question is fair, you know what I mean?
I agree.
Ask every single question. As crazy as you might think the question is, just make sure you ask it to get the answer and write it down, so, you can remind them later on if there was something so hopefully the process when we get face to face with people, we can, put our best effort.
I'm sure you guys will do a great job.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right.
Any more questions for Chris? All right, we did the road foreman's report, but did anybody have any questions for Chuck? All right. I would like to go into an executive session.
At this time, Madam Chair, I will make those motions. Under Vermont Statute 313 annotated, Section A1A. 2 executive sessions will be requested, Madam Chair. The first, and for the public's full knowledge, will require contract negotiation or contract discussion, or matters that would include contract, and I'm simply reading off the VLCT template, and we are not in any way to make a to put anyone in premature general knowledge or promote premature general knowledge of a place not only the public body, but a person involved in a substantial disadvantage. This is not to be inferred anything other than that, other than privacy. And we would like to invite all the current present members of the Highway Department, Charles Lawrence, and the town manager, interim manager, for the first meeting. For the second meeting, also, I move for a second executive session, Madam Chair, under 1 VSA 313A2-810, also on a contractual matter. And this is to invite just the interim town manager. And on both of these, the public should know no action is intended to be taken without exception this evening. I so move both.
Second.
I would like to make an adjustment to that.
Sure.
To include the entire highway department.
I think I said that.
Okay, oh, I thought,
He did-
sorry,
he said
okay.
that.
You said, okay.
Include the entire
Yep.
highway department
That's fine.
and Ally and interim
Okay.
town manager.
Motion to have, all right, motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Was it Jason or Dan? I'm sorry.
Jason.
Thank you.
Boards, committees, and commissions? Seeing none. Other business?
I'm sorry.
I had a discussion with some members of the historical commission. And they were going to do some research. I thought they might show up, but they were doing some research about raising money to assist with the renovation of the first house, the little shed in the Westminster West Cemetery, which is in grave need of support. Anyway, so there's two hearses, this one here, and another one that is in Ruth Brandy's garage now. Was it the Haas's? It was actually made in Westminster West, and that they were hoping to find more permanent housing for it. So the Hearst house came up as discussion, and the fact that it needs work in order to remain upright.
Okay.
So, okay, that's just a note from that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other business? Seeing none, the date of the next meeting is Wednesday, April 12th, 2023. Ready to go into an executive session?
Thank you.
Thank you, Millie.
How we doing?
Hey, guys. Thanks for your hard work.
This last round was pretty exciting.
How's your wife doing?
Pretty good, pretty good. Still just stable.
Yeah.
Stable, but she's able to be home alone here today. That's good.
What's that? Yeah, what is it?
Recording stopped.